I call the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Mr Speaker, I'm only going to take a brief call on the Statutes Amendment Bill. It is indeed correct that most times when these bills are put before the House, therefore minor technical amendments, but my colleagues have raised a number of issues that will be debated with some vigour at the committee stages, for the simple reason that every bit of legislation that passes through this House should be scrutinised by members of Parliament, certainly through the Select Committee process, whether they're controversial or not, because what that process in itself enables is for the public view to be expressed, for some considered advice to be put before members of Parliament, because members don't have the monopoly on knowledge, the monopoly of knowledge on a number of issues that are brought before us, and also perhaps to consider further amendments as a consequence. So with that in mind, I want to reinforce comments that were put forward by my colleagues with regards to the Statutes Amendments Bill. And I do want to just put some frame around minor technical amendments. There's probably only one member in this House currently sitting who's not with the Labour Party now, but in some frivolity within Labour caucus, it was said that a minor technical amendment was brought to amend the State-Owned Enterprises Act, and rising out of that we had a number of actions which led to the National Māori Council injunction of the sale of state-owned enterprises, and also the Waikato Tainui injunction in terms of solid energy. So that was all brought about by a minor technical amendment. With specific regard to the issues that my colleague Steve Chadwick raised, and that was the definition of the National Parks Act to come into line with the Foreshore and Seabed Act. I just present this one issue, and it is in relation to tourism ventures, and you could easily apply this thinking to the National Park in Enable Tasman, and in fact the provision may or may not impact on tourism operators, because if you look at the inclusion of the foreshore definition, it could or could not enable kayakers to land their kayaks on the foreshore of the national park and be charged or not. So when members here are saying that it could have consequential effects, those are the types of issues that this House has no knowledge of, and I certainly wasn't on the Select Committee, but would appreciate informed debate from colleagues who were on that Select Committee to give me a sense of whether or not this minor technical amendment will or will not have an impact on tourism operators, because I know that tourism operators who run a business down in Abel Tasman Park, who do land their kayaks on the foreshore, they would want to know whether or not their business is going to be affected. It's quite simple, very practical, and should be something that members in this House gives due regard to. So with that in mind, Mr Speaker, I think again, the ability to debate and discuss these types of issues are so very important, because if it affects business, in this regard it may or may not. If it affects tourism operators to do the things that they are currently doing lawfully, but may have a downflow effect which may be negative, then they need to know about that very quickly, and that should be brought out through further clarification of the Select Committee process when debating the issues on the Statutes Amendment Bill. So, Mr Speaker, I know that we haven't got too much more time left, but I do believe that if we were to ensure that bills like this were debated with the fullness of knowledge of all members, then those Select Committee members who participated in this
the honourable member, but her time has
can inform us all so that we are better
members,
prepared.
the time has come for me to leave the chair. This debate is interrupted. I shall resume the chair at 7:30.